For generations, the global establishment has recycled the exact same condescending script about our continent. They paint Africa as a permanent charity case, a landscape of endless dependency, a place of manufactured despair where foreign intervention, Western handouts, and high-interest international loans are presented as the only possible lifelines for human survival. But out in the heart of the Sahel, a young, defiant leader just took that entire neo-colonial playbook, threw it into the mud, and set it completely on fire. Under the fierce visionary guidance of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso has completely flipped the narrative on its head in a way that has left Western planners in absolute stunned silence. A massive welcome back to the table and an incredibly warm welcome to the entire Power and Pulse family. If you are logging in with us for the very first time, make sure to hit that subscribe button immediately and join the collective that tears down mainstream corporate propaganda to examine the raw beating heart of continental self-determination. Tonight, we are witnessing a tectonic shift that has completely shattered the patronizing cliches used to hold our people in psychological chains for centuries. In a global system that metrics a developing nation's progress by how deeply it submits to foreign donors, Ouagadougou just made history by constructing the biggest, most advanced reference hospital complex on the African continent. The largest state-of-the-art referral healthcare hub in Africa wasn't built in a Western-aligned coastal metropolis or an oil-flush billionaire playground. It was built right here in the Sahel. But it gets even deeper. Captain Traoré didn't just stop at laying bricks for a medical building. Directly integrated into this monumental health fortress is a cutting-edge medical university and a domestic state-backed pharmaceutical manufacturing plant. This isn't just a standard hospital. It is a fully integrated ecosystem of local healing, advanced native education, and absolute self-reliance. And here is the absolute shocker that is causing panic in international banking suites. No predatory IMF loans, no crippling World Bank structural conditions, no submissive partnerships with foreign financial masters. Just pure, unadulterated national will, raw Pan-African resolve, and a fierce determination to ensure that Africa's vast resources are utilized exclusively to elevate Africans. Now, let's look at the raw politics of this achievement. Ever since Captain Ibrahim Traoré assumed leadership, the mainstream media has done everything in its power to paint him as nothing more than a temporary military isolationist. But with this single structural triumph, he has transformed into an undeniable symbol of native resistance, complete systemic independence, and pure hope for millions of youths across the continent. So, while the typical compromised political class across the globe remains completely tied down by foreign aid dependencies, begging for financial crumbs, and international summits, while their citizens suffer, Traoré chose the harder, braver path. He chose to completely reclaim his country's internal destiny. This monumental university hospital complex in Pala, near Bobo-Dioulasso, isn't just about healthcare infrastructure. This is a physical monument to national dignity. It stands as a concrete, undeniable proof of what is possible when an African nation stops looking across the ocean for validation and starts believing in the strength of its own heart. In a region where foreign non-governmental organizations have historically dominated the medical landscape, using basic healthcare as a tool for soft power manipulation, the Burkina administration drew a permanent line in the sand. Traoré looked at the global donors and essentially said, our people deserve absolute world-class standard, and we are not going to wait for your permission or your charity to build it. Let's be completely honest. The global planners must be looking at their spreadsheets right now, utterly confused. Because they are probably asking, wait, how did they build a medical center with hundreds of specialist departments, robotic surgery units, and advanced diagnostics laboratories without signing away the rights to their gold mines to our banks? The math simply doesn't add up in their colonial ledgers. They build advanced surgical theaters that rival the top institutions in Paris or Brussels. They established a dedicated trauma and emergency response center engineered specifically to handle national crises, alongside advanced oncology wings designed to treat complex conditions that previously forced wealthy African elites to spend millions flying abroad for treatment. Right next to these clinical wards sits the fully accredited medical university. Think about the profound long-term strategy behind this. This institution is engineered specifically to train the next generations of African doctors, surgeons, nurses, and laboratory researchers right on the native soil. This is the ultimate antidote to the devastating brain drain that has crippled our communities for decades. So for years, our brightest minds had to migrate to Western capitals to receive top-tier training, only to end up staying there to power foreign systems. Traore is cutting that chain at the root. No more absolute dependency on external educational systems. And to completely secure this health autonomy, the integrated pharmaceutical production hub is designed to completely end the continent's over-reliance on imported medications. So, from basic life-saving antibiotics to critical daily insulin, this manufacturing facility ensures that Burkina Faso can produce vital pharmaceuticals internally for its own population, while simultaneously exporting surplus production to neighboring brother nations across the region. This is what authentic, uncompromised self-rule looks like when it leaves the pages of political theory and manifests as concrete reality on the ground. For decades, Africa has watched in silent agony as its immense natural inheritance, its gold, its manganese, its agricultural wealth, was systematically extracted to line the pockets of foreign corporate shareholders and distant states. While our raw wealth accumulated in external accounts, our domestic healthcare systems were left to decay. Children were losing their lives to entirely preventable conditions. And our brilliant medical professionals were fleeing across the globe just to find functional working conditions. Burkina Faso looked at that historic tragedy and said, enough is enough. Rather than allowing the nation's booming gold revenues to vanish into offshore accounts or opaque international management funds, the Traore administration aggressively redirected those exact resources into local development, real tangible development, not fraudulent cosmetic development written up in donor progress reports to make Western NGOs look good, but the kind of development that builds permanent local institutions, resilient local infrastructure, and complete national self-sufficiency. This project has completely exposed the biggest lie ever told by Western establishment. The myth that our continent cannot rise, innovate, or protect its own people without the patronizing hand of a foreign master. Well, they have just been proven wrong in the most public and spectacular fashion imaginable. Right? And let me tell you, the deep systematic shockwaves of this triumph are already rippling aggressively across every single border in West Africa. Think about the panic inside Western Big Pharma. How can international pharmaceutical monopolies continue to extract massive profits from our people when local African industries start formulating, manufacturing, and distributing their own medications at a fraction of the cost? How can foreign donor states continue to justify their endless aid dependency cycles when one of the most heavily sanctioned countries in the Sahel just went ahead and constructed the finest hospital ecosystem on the continent without a single dollar of capital? This is the exact reason why you will barely see this historic achievement covered on the evening news of the major Western broadcasting corporations. They are terrified of this story. They are desperate to suppress it because they know that if the truth of Burkinabe's self-reliance spreads across the minds of the African youth, it will ignite an intellectual fire that can no longer be extinguished by empty humanitarian promises and predatory development loans. But I've got news for the global establishment. It is already too late. The spark has left the flint. The awakening is already fully on the way. And Captain Ibrahim Traoré didn't just build a medical center. He built a permanent monument of hope, a brilliant beacon of self-belief, and an unmistakable warning to any external interest that still views Africa as a passive supplier of raw materials. There is an entirely new sound echoing across our territories today. It is no longer the sound of foreign humanitarian planes arriving to drop emergency rations, nor is it the quiet whisper of foreign diplomats dictating state policy in our ministries. It is the raw, thunderous sound of heavy construction, of boundless ambition, and of a population completely rising to claim their rightful place under the sun. And Burkina Faso has risen, and they are moving forward at the speed of light. This monumental reference hospital is not the end of the journey. It is merely the opening chapter of a brand new book. It is a loud, uncompromising declaration to every single leader across our continent that you do not need to mortgage your children's future to the international financial complex to build your republic. You don't need to kneel before the IMF. What you need is absolute structural courage, unbroken national unity, and an unshakable belief in the intellectual capacity of your own population. So, to the youth of Africa watching this broadcast tonight, this is the future that belongs to you, and it is waiting for you to boldly step up and claim it. To the global establishment, watch out our next moves very carefully, because the passive Africa you once knew, exploited and managed, is officially gone. Right? This is the era of complete native authority, local African solutions, and absolute territorial mastery. And it all began with a vision, an unyielding population, and a hospital built by African hands. The geopolitical paradigm of our continent has completely shifted, and the old exploiters are completely running out of options. We are documenting history in the making, and that is exactly why this channel exists, to give you the raw, unfiltered truth that the corporate media is desperately trying to bury out of sight. Thank you all for watching, and before you sign off, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to Power and Pulse for more educational videos like this one. I am your host Marie, and I will see you all in the next one.